Hello, my name is Matt Goodfellow. I'm a poet. I'm going to read you a couple of poems from this book, Bright Bursts of Colour, in celebration of Empathy Day on June the 10th. This book's illustrated by Alexi Bitskoff and it's published by Bloomsbury Education. I'm going to read you a poem called Liam. Now, before I was a poet, I used to be a primary school teacher. And poetry, of course, you can make sense of the world around you. You can have a look at things that are going on. One of the things that interested me as a poet, as a teacher, were those kids that sometimes came into class and weren't with you very long and disappeared off somewhere else around the country. Sometimes happened to me when I was a kid as well. I moved around schools and people came into my classes. Interests me. This is Liam. Last year, this lad joined our class. He'd been to loads of different schools up and down the country, following where his dad's work was. He said he liked it, moving around, that it kept things alive and interesting. One time at break, he told me he was different, that his thoughts were bright bursts of colour, greens and reds, blues and golds all moving together. He said they were so bright they sometimes hurt his eyes. He's gone now, of course, was only here a month or so. But every now and then, I picture him standing at the edge of some playground. I wonder if he's nervous, if he ever feels afraid that staying in a place too long might make the colours fade. That's Liam. I'm going to do a different poem for you, a different poem for you, called Strest. The poem looks like that on the page. That's the shape of the poem on the page. And this is about when I was a year six teacher. Every year the children had to sit the dreaded SATs, and sometimes it got to kids in ways that you might not expect, and it got to the kinds of kids that you might not expect. This was a poem about a lad who was in my class that was very tough. That's what he was known for. He was known for being tough and hard, and nobody had ever seen him cry. And I was with him when he did. He took his SATs reading paper. Charlie never cries, not even when he came down the slide too fast in year five and broke his wrist. Miss couldn't believe it. He even smiled and waved to our class across the playground when Mr. Smith drove him off to hospital. Charlie never cries, not even when his gran died. He was back in school the next day, said he was fine, he'd survived, but you could see it in the shadows of his eyes. Charlie never cries. But when it was time for the reading paper we'd revised for, Charlie sighed, flicked through the pages for ages, put his pen down. Miss appeared at his side, saying, "Try your best, Charlie. It's just a test, Charlie." And he looked over at me, and I swear I could see right inside his mind. It was dark, and he was hiding, shoulders shaking, and he knew he couldn't do what they wanted him to do, however hard he tried. And I'll never forget the day of the test, the day Charlie cried.